The last video I talked about a mom, and she'd gotten arrested, and I put the video link in under that if you want to take a look at that. And there's also a GoFundMe to help her. I just mentioned that, and if nothing else, please pray for her. This craziness that's going on um, with sheriffs and police departments breaking the law and arresting moms is just absolutely crazy. And I heard somebody say today, Max Egan. In fact, I listened to a lot of his videos on the Crow House, and he was talking about how this thing is going to be another 3 or 4 years. But if we can get through that, things will even out then. Um, even out, that's probably not the right word to say, but they'll get a little better after 3 or 4 years. And I hope he's right, that things will get better eventually. I really hope that's the case. I think it's going to take a lot of people thinking and really, I'm just amazed by how many intelligent doctors and people in academia are fooled by this whole thing, and that they're not even examining the PCR process, and what goes on with that. And it doesn't reflect very well on my alma mater, where it's supposed to be a really good technical and science school. So it's really strange, isn't it? The way things are happening. I do hope things get better. Please go look underneath where I am now on your screen and find the mom and the mom video, and please take a look at that and listen to her story and think about how many people are having that story, or the story of I couldn't go to the doctor because I don't wear a mask. And there was a blind woman. I might have mentioned this, but I don't think I did. There was a blind woman who was also speaking on Sunday, and she actually was in some kind of study and um, and decided to not be in it because they were making her obstruct her breathing. And it's just, I smile because it's so crazy, but it's not really funny. I mean, it's sad, but it's just absurd, in a lot of ways. And it's even more absurd that people are going along with it. Um, I mean, people like Fauci or Burks, they're like one person. I mean, there are a couple of people, but we are also important and we're very powerful. And I think it's important for us to realize that now, just walking around in my neighborhood here in California is an act of defiance, because I see people out walking their dogs and they're all muzzled and all this stuff, and people ride in their cars. And you know I'm just not going to do that. And I hope you're not going to do it either. And when you listen to the mom tell her story, she says, those of you who comply, this is what it's leading to. And that's true. So I'm really hoping that people begin to wake up, and not only wake up, I think a lot of people are waking up to, there's something not quite right about this, but then having the courage to stand up for what is right, and for breathing oxygen, for, not taking an experimental vaccine, for not poking something way up your nose. Max Egan had this video from this little boy. They punctured something. I don't know. It was just bleeding. It was awful. And I hate, he had been forced into getting a test. I think he had to be quarantined somewhere. And what we're doing to kids on a mental and emotional level is not good. But what he had done to him on a physical level, it's traumatizing. When I was 5 or 6, I had very unnecessarily an operation, and I had to watch another girl, my roommate at the time, in the hospital. They chased her down to stick this big needle inside her, and it was pretty traumatic. And that little boy that I saw in the video, and I'll put a couple of Max Egan's videos in the comments so you can take a look at them. But I couldn't watch anymore because it just, to physically hurt a child like that and tell them that you're helping them medically, it just doesn't even make sense. But that's what's happening. And I'm hoping that people will not only wake up, I think a lot of people are awake, but that they will go into stores, and if they won't let you in because you don't want to obstruct your breathing, that you'll walk right out. And that they'll understand that, hey, we're not making as much money. That's the way to handle this. That's one way to handle it. Another way is to, some people suggest getting out of the system as much as possible. I certainly am trying to get away from the US banking system. I mean, I'm a member of two credit unions, and in both of them, I can't go in and just have a normal experience. I've got, it feels like it's in a hospital because everybody's wearing a mask and I can't see people, or a face shield, or both. And, I don't want to bank like that. So I'm looking at alternatives to the US banking system. Um, well, it's probably in the central banking system stuff all around the world. I don't know. Um, and I'm not giving any advice here, but I'm just telling you things I'm looking at. And you might notice that over here, there's a bunch of weeds and stuff. Weeds, got to be careful about what we call weeds. And I'm going to ask you, not that I'm giving advice, but I'm going to ask you to think about looking at things in different ways. Because when we got back, we had been gone for a while, and we got back to California, and this yard in the back, anyway, looked, at first I was like, oh my gosh, it looks horrible, all these weeds and stuff. And then a friend of mine pointed out that there were dandelions, and actually she wanted some dandelion because she was going to make some dandelion vinegar. And I realized that all the stuff that I call weeds and overgrowth and that kind of thing, um, may be beneficial. And there was another plant too that I'm going to check into that I had heard it had some value to it. And this stuff just kind of grew up, while we were gone, not mowing anything. So I'm letting some of this stuff stay for a little while, and using it sort of as inspiration for what I might do. Um, but I think that it really, I thought a year ago, right before all this mess started, I probably would have just been angry about it, and not. I don't know if I would have looked to another way. But now, things are different, uh, and things that can be used for food, or make, might be used to help make some kind of food, or vinegar or something like that. And I know there's dandelion wine too that people make. But things like that, I think, are going to be a little more useful maybe than they have been in the next 3 or 4 years, um, if this continues to go on. And I forget where it was. One country had put down lockdown measures indefinitely. So this is meant to continue. It's meant to dehumanize and continue, and all of that stuff, and really drive us crazy. So another thing I'm doing is working on my spiritual connections and making sure that my heart is right with God, or trying to, praying for that, and really being still and listening to God, trying to do that. Um, it's really difficult. We don't have the television on here hardly at all. um, and yeah, I like a lot of quiet, and I think that's good. I think people need to be quiet and reflect, and also be with other people. Um, I think it's very important to be with other people, and I've been trying to do that. And fortunately, I've been able to do that, to see other people and talk to other people, and I'm very thankful for that. I think that's extremely important for our health to do. So that's what I'm doing. Again, I'm not giving any advice, but I'm looking at things in a different way, seeing what may be useful that I didn't think was useful in the past, or what may not be useful now that I felt like was useful. And I think that's part of also just kind of coming to terms with all the stuff, that's happening. And realizing that whatever this is and wherever it's come from, it's certainly a different thing and it's changing our world. So we have to change our reactions because of it. And not every change is bad. I mean, if we can look to plants for medicine as a lot of people used to do, and it looks like it's going to help us to be very self-sufficient in the next few years, especially in a lot of ways. And so, if we can do those things and learn from those things, it might help to make a better world and a more free world. I really want a more free world. I miss freedom, and I also am, I consider myself a free individual, but sometimes it's hard when you get out in the world to see the tyranny that's going on, and to watch people, just do the craziest things with obstructing their breathing. And yesterday, I saw another person with two things to obstruct their breathing. So it's a crazy world. That's why I think that being out in it is important to kind of see what's going on, and also coming back in and having some quiet time and having some time with God and praying. And for these people like Tasha, who's in the video, the mom that was arrested, and all the freedom fighters, we all need your prayers, and we all want you to join us, and we all want to be we want to have a lot more freedom fighters, because if there were 5 or 6 people going into every store without anything obstructing their breathing, then eventually the stores would get the message on that, maybe immediately. So I hope that helps. Let's learn to look at things in a different way and think of, what do you want to do if the worst things can happen, like in Pakistan where the electricity was out. Well, what if that comes here? Are you prepared? And, how much food do you have? How's your water supply? All these things we need to be thinking about. So I hope that this has helped and that you'll start thinking about things maybe in a different way, in a way that will help you to survive. And I hope you do in the next 3 or 4 years. And I hope I do as well. I hope we all do. So I'm going to read a poem, which I think is one of the most healing things to do in the whole world, from Love is a Dog from Hell by Charles Bukowski. And it is a relatively clean one. Relatively. Okay. This is called Chopin Bukowski. And Charles Bukowski seemed to really like music. Um, Sometimes also he called himself Chinaski in his poems. Just a little note there. This one is called, Chopin Bukowski. This is my piano. The phone rings and people ask, "What are you doing? How about getting drunk with us?" And I say, "I'm at my piano." "What?" "I'm at my piano." I hang up. People need me. I fill them. If they can't see me for a while, they get desperate, they get sick. But if I see them too often, I get sick. It's hard to feed without getting fed. My piano says things back to me. Sometimes the things are scrambled and not very good. Other times I get as good and lucky as Chopin. Sometimes I get out of practice, out of tune. That's all right. I can sit down and vomit on the keys, but it's my vomit. It's better than sitting in a room with 3 or 4 people and their pianos. This is my piano, and it is better than theirs, and they like it, and they do not like it. That is Charles Bukowski from Love is a Dog from Hell. This is I've had this copy a while. Um, Chopin Bukowski is the name of that poem. I hope you enjoyed that. Read some poetry, do some art. Those are all things I think that help us to be in a spiritual, to have more of a spiritual connection. I hope these things help. Read your Bible. That's a good one too. Um, and I hope we can all survive and help each other to survive. A lot of people seem like they're trying to hurt us and destroy us from different angles. So let's stay close to God and survive these things. Okay, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.